Now available in paperback and e-readers, The Temptation of John Haynes. Give in to temptation and pick up this action-packed African-American paranormal romance. Get The Temptation of John Haynes in paperback and e-readers today. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, because we're having us a barbecue. Children of Blood and Bone author Tomi Adyemi has distanced herself from the film adaptation of her book. Now, according to reports, Tomi Adyemi, the Nigerian-American author of the popular YA book Children, Blood and Bone, is upset with the film adaptation of her novel that is being directed by Gina Prince Bythewood, who was the director of The Woman King, and the film stars Amanda Stenberg, Thuso Madu, Tolson Cole, Damson Idris, Cynthia Erivo, Latasha Lynch, Regina King, Idris Elba, Treadwell Ejiofor, and Viola Davis. Man, that's a lot of tethers and bootlicks. Now, one of the big issues that Tomi Adyemi has is that the studio went out here and cast a biracial actress, Amanda Stenberg, for the role of the African character of Amari. I hate to break it to Tony, but that's the business. Now, what really supposedly has Tomi Adyemi upset is the fact that the studio went out here and cast Amanda Stenberg, a biracial woman, to play the role of Amari, who she described as having dark copper skin in her novel. And according to reports, Tomi Adyemi basically wanted to see a dark-skinned actress be cast in this role and be the lead in this adaptation of her novel. Yeah, that's not going to happen. It's clear to me that Tomi Adyemi really doesn't understand the entertainment business and clearly doesn't understand how Hollywood does business as related to adaptation. Yes, Tomi Adyemi was actually blessed to get past all the white women in the publishing industry and get herself a best-selling book. However, when it comes down to her understanding of Hollywood and how it operates, she clearly shows how naive she is. Because when it comes down to Hollywood and them buying the rights for your book, when they go out here and buy the rights for your book, they're buying the right to make an adaptation of your book into a film. Now, this is something that many people in the publishing business don't understand, but I basically understood it once Sid Field explained it in his book, Screenplay. And in Sid Field's screenplay, he explains that when a studio buys the rights to your book, they are buying the right to make an adaptation of that book, and that adaptation is going to be their interpretation of whatever you wrote. And that adaptation can be whatever the studio wants it to be, because they went out here and bought the rights to make their version of your story, and you just have to just go out here and accept whatever version that they make, because this is the contract you agreed to when you signed that contract with that production company. Because once you go out here and sign that deal to sell the rights to that production company, they basically now own that intellectual property as related to the film version of whatever they want to make. And they basically, again, like I said before, can make whatever they want. Now, this same thing happens with many screenwriters. Like, I had a Facebook friend. He recently sold a screenplay a couple of years ago, and he was shocked when he found that the production company began making large-scale changes to his script. Now, he was really upset because he had basically worked hard to get that script together, and I had to sit there and tell him, that you can't get upset, because once you go out here and sell your script to the production company, it is now their property, and they can go out here and make whatever changes that they want as related to their version of that script. And when it comes down to scripts or book rights, basically, the studio basically is buying the rights to make whatever they want, and the studio may be generous, or the production company may be generous, to allow you to possibly go out here and either be able to write parts of the script, or they may just go out here and in some cases even hire you as a consultant. Get that money and call it a day. And that's them being really generous and being really kind, because they don't have to do anything at all. Because when it comes down to Hollywood, the writer is considered to be the bottom guy as related to the whole production. And when it comes down to these productions, the people who have the real power are two people. One of them is the executive producer and the other is the director. Now, the executive producer is the most powerful person on a production, because the executive producer is the one going out here and putting up the money to finance the project, and they have the ultimate say over who goes out here and writes the script. They have the say of who gets to work on the production, and they have the say over who gets cast in whatever roles. So it's the executive producer who has complete control over the production, and the director is the person who has the vision for the film, and they have power over what gets shot on the film. So when I listen to Tomi Adyemi, she's sitting here and she's getting upset at Amanda Stenberg, the biracial woman playing Amari, and that's where I have to look at her with a bit of a side eye and shake my head, because that shows how clearly she doesn't understand the entertainment business. Because if she has an issue as related to the production of Children, Blood and Bone, then her issue really should be with the executive producer of the film, because it's the executive producer who goes out here and chooses who gets cast in whatever role. So Tomi Adyemi ain't getting in the face of the executive producer and the director. She knows not to fuck with the people with the money. They may decide to choose to cast someone based on other factors outside of authenticity to the novel. Now, Tomi Adyemi says she wanted to make Children of Blood and Bone for black girls to see a positive image of dark-skinned black women. Unfortunately, that's not how the studios make their money. Now, when it comes down to the studios will go out here and look to cast a biracial actress in a lead role, because when it comes down to most of America, especially black America, they find lighter-skinned actresses to be more appealing. Now, this is something that may not be fair for Tomi Adyemi, but the producers of this film had to think about their box office and their return as related to things, because they basically took a huge loss on The Woman King a couple of years ago, which featured dark-skinned Viola Davis in the lead. And as they took huge losses on The Woman King, when they looked to make this Children of Blood and Bone movie, they wanted to look to mitigate their losses, and that's possibly one of the reasons why they went out here and cast Amanda Stenberg in the lead role of Amari, because they wanted to go out here and look to make this film adaptation bankable and to perform a little better than they saw The Woman King perform. Now, when it comes down to many of these production companies, they'll go out here and not only cast that light-skinned actress in that role as the lead, but they may have all had to cast that light-skinned actress in the lead because she possibly was somebody they considered to be bankable. And when it came down to Amanda Stenberg, she has a series of credits, like being in films like The Hunger Games and Star Wars: The Acolyte, which show that she has a bit of a following in the world of black fantasy. And with her having a series of credits, she also has experience in fantasy. So this is an actress they could possibly be able to work with as related to being able to understand how to work on the script, because she has previous experience in fantasy type films. And they also possibly did go out here and cast Amanda Stenberg also because possibly this was the only actress that was available. Because another thing that this woman, the author, doesn't understand is that oftentimes, yeah, a studio may go out here and buy the rights to go out here and make an adaptation of material. However, the studio may not have the person that you want available for that role because that person may be under contract with another production company, or they may currently be working on another project, or they just may not be interested at all, or they may just not be the right person for that role anymore. For example, I myself basically wrote a novel called The Temptation of John Haynes, and ever since I wrote that novel, all the way back in 2005, I always had the vision of Keith David playing Lucifer, and Sally Richardson Whitfield playing Esteem, and Michael Ealy playing John Haynes. Unfortunately, that series of actors that I want, basically, I'm not going to be able to get those actors if I ever were to get that opportunity to make a Temptation of John Haynes movie. And when it comes down to things, again, it's basically mitigating factors as related to them not being cast. Now, in the case of Sally Richardson Whitfield, she's basically 58 years old, and no studio is going to hire a 58-year-old woman to be in a lead actress role. Nope, not going to happen anymore. And when it comes down to Michael Ealy, basically, he's basically in his 50s and basically on his way out. Same thing with Keith David. Now, again, I love Keith David. He's just a fantastic actor, and I know he would tear it up as Lucifer, but he's 70 years old at this point, and basically, it's just not going to happen, and I have to work with who's available, and I have to work within the parameters if I'm an executive producer. Again, as a writer, I don't have a say on anything, on any production. All I can do at the end of the day is basically just go out here and if they make me an offer, just take whatever cash they give me. And after I take the cash, I go out here and hopefully they will let me go out here and possibly write the screenplay or write parts of the screenplay. Because usually when it comes to Hollywood, it's like this. They basically gonna bring in their own screenwriter to write their adaptation. They're gonna bring in their studio guy, and you will be working with the studio guy on the adaptation. And as you're working with the studio's guy, you have to understand they're gonna make their version, and only thing you can do is collect the paycheck as related to things. Hopefully, pull yourself a consultant gig, and if you're lucky, the film will do well, and you can go out here and create another property because they already own this property. So what you're going to do is try to look to create another property that you're going to own, and that's where this woman, Tomi Adyemi, gets it twisted. Yes, she has an emotional attachment to her project of Children, Blood and Bone, but she doesn't understand that in the business of film, it's basically about them looking to make the most money on this project. Because when it comes down to a adaptation of something like a Children, Blood and Bone, again, a fantasy movie, studios going out here and they're putting maybe $40-50 million these days on that type of project. It's not like what I had planned for Temptation of John Haynes, where I said, this can be made for maybe like $5-10 million, so the studio ain't gonna really feel that too bad because I'm using actors who are lower on the scale, and I'm also going out here and I'm creating something that can be made for a lower budget. But the whole thing is that the studios basically, when they go out here and they're putting money into a production, they're looking to get the most return on things. But Tomi Adyemi basically don't understand this, and she's basically taking out her anger at Amanda Stenberg, getting upset at Amanda Stenberg, but Amanda Stenberg is nobody as related to that production, just like she is. Because when it comes to the actor, again, they are really above the writer, but again, still at the bottom of the pile as related to the people on the production totem pole. And when it comes to the people at the top of the production of the totem pole, it's the executive producer, it's the director. They basically have the final say of what gets shot as related to their version of your story. They're the ones who have complete control over what is produced. And if Tomi Adyemi has an issue, once again, her issue is with the producer and the director, but she'd rather just lay down her sword, and she can only lay down her sword as related to this fight, because she says she was being attacked, and I don't really believe that she was being attacked. She just was shocked to find out how rough this business is. And in the business of entertainment, again, when it comes to writers, we basically are going to get a lot of pushback from people as related to the film business, because they're looking to go out here and make money on these projects. But I can understand where they're coming from, coming off the flop of The Woman King, coming off the failure of The Woman King. They're looking to try to appeal to larger audiences of black people. And these bootlicks and tethers, as some people would call them, basically understand that if they want to make money at the box office, they've got to go out here and make the film a certain way. They've got to make this film fit within what's going to be appealing to larger audiences. And the whole idea of this dark-skinned copper woman, yeah, that was nice for the book. That's nice for the book as related to the white women in publishing. But when it comes down to multi-million-dollar productions, they basically ain't going for that at all. Nope, not going for that at all. No, they need to go out here and make bank at the box office. So what they're going to do is go out here and make the film with a cast that they believe will appeal to the audience, and they'll get the biracial actress to play an African, because that's what's going to go out here and put butts in the seats that they hope. And that's what they do with these studios every day. And if you're a writer, the only thing you can do if a production company comes to you and says, hey, we want to make an adaptation of your film, is just go out here and take that money. Because even if you're a best-selling author, the chances of you getting a film opportunity basically are slim to none. And if you do get that opportunity, the only thing you can do is go out here and get that cash, bank that cash, and put it in your pocket, and make sure that you get a deal as related to perpetuity of royalties, so that you can continue making money on this film after they go out here and give you, as part of your film, of you selling the film rights. Make sure you getting a piece of that box office. Make sure you getting not only the money for the film rights, but make sure you get a piece of that box office for whatever that you're getting, so that you can continue to get paid off your property. And you want to go out here and look to go out here and get your paper for whatever deal that you're doing. But when it comes down to Tomi Adyemi, she don't know how to work the business and look to go out here and again get that deal as related to the film rights, and then go out here and then pivot over and say, you know what, I've made this Children Blood and Bone deal. Now I'm going to go out here and look to make another property and look to be an executive producer myself, where I can have the final say, because the ultimate goal is to get ownership of something after you sell your rights. Because if I sell, like for example, I sell film rights to something like a John Haynes, I need to go out here afterward and start creating a new property that I'm basically gonna own at the end of the day. And it's all about ownership as related to the film business. Again, you want to be in the seat of the executive producer, because the executive producer is the one who has the final say on what gets filmed and who gets cast. But again, Tomi Adyemi, she don't understand this business, and the way she's acting out, basically the studios basically are going to show her the door, and they're going to show her the door because she's not playing the business of the side of things. She's not understanding how business is done, because when it comes down to the writer as related to these projects, the smart writers basically say, okay, they're giving me cash, I'm going to call this a day on this one, and I got like 4 or 5 others. I'm going to talk to my agent, and we're going to see about trying to get one of these other ones sold, especially if this one's a hit. My thing is to go out here and get this other one sold, and if I can get be an executive producer where I can go out here and get some more money and have more say over everything. That's what a smart person does. They just say, okay, I sold that one. Now I'm going to try to go out here and sell some more, because it's not about what they make on screen. It's about you getting cash at the end of the day. I mean, it's like a previous video I just did where I talk about, as related to black men, don't worry about the title of your job. Your goal is to go out here and get that money and get yourself paid. That's the only thing you're thinking about as related to somebody else's job. And when it comes down to somebody else's film that they went out here and made, and they gave you, again, a job to write screenplays or whatever, consultant, my job is to just go out here, get this money, and call it a day. Because once I write the script and I sell the script now it belongs to them. The book rights that I sell, it belongs to them. They can do whatever they please with it. I'm just going out here and count this money and basically just continue going on out here and getting my bread. That's what I understand about the business. But this woman basically don't understand this, and she's all upset, like many bootlicks and tethers are, because it's about their white acceptance. And they thought, and what this woman, Tomi Adyemi, thought was she was going to get a door in with these white folks and be accepted by them, and that they would go for her version of black. But they basically showed her, when it comes down to the media arm of white supremacy, it's all about them being able to do whatever they please. And now that they know that she's going to push back on them, they're basically making plans to push her out of the door after Children of Blood and Bone come to theaters. Now, if you want to check out some of my black fantasy on the SJS Direct imprint, like The Temptation of John Haynes, the ISIS series, the Esteem series, and my vampire novel Eternal Night, and other books that I've, contemporary fiction that I've done, like the Spinsterella series of Spellbound, the legendary Mad Matilda, and Spinsterella, and my black sorority novel, The Thetas, and my black business novel, Recipe for Success. You can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me take people in the entertainment industry to the barbecue, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box so I can continue making these videos to talk about the entertainment industry. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse. The man who rules the world gets a job offer he can't refuse in this action-packed all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes, An Offer He Can't Refuse at Amazon.com and other online booksellers. Now available in paperback and Kindle, Vampires Stalk the Darkness of the Eternal Night. Get your copy of Eternal Night in paperback and Kindle on Amazon.com. Now available in paperback and e-readers, ISIS Runway of Doom. The goddess next door struts her stuff on the catwalk to take on a runway of rogues in this action-packed all-new ISIS series adventure. Get your copy of ISIS Runway of Doom at Amazon.com and online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, Esteem a New Woman. The devilish diva starts on the road to becoming a new creature in Christ in this all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem a New Woman at Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.